What if the reflexes that forged Lewis Hamilton's seven-title empire at Mercedes are now the very reflexes bleeding tenths from every lap in Ferrari red? Picture the Silver Arrow legend, 2 decades deep into instinctive driving, discovering that those silver-born habits have become his newest rival. That irony echoes through Maranello, far from TV lenses, captured only in rows of telemetry. It begins with Mercedes's old brake traces and a scarlet SF-25 that refuses to obey its most decorated pilot. Scroll back 2 seasons to Mercedes's turbulent W14. The car's posing punished every sudden input. George Russell, fresh, methodical, tamed it by feathering his pressure ramp and delaying turn-in. Qualifying ended 19-8 in his favor, not because Hamilton lost raw speed, but because his trademark jab clashed with a chassis desperate for serenity. Brackley analysts mapped the same spike we see today, colored it red, and begged for modulation. Hamilton adjusted, won Brazil, yet the root reflex lingered. Paint the car scarlet and the pattern repeats. Whenever Hamilton hammers the pedal, the SF-25 flinches. Fans whisper about twilight years. Engineers whisper about ride height windows. Every stint Hamilton records in the SF-25 delivers a confession the timing tower can't soften. His brake pressure trace spikes 20 meters sooner and 40 bar harder than anyone else in the garage. Overlay that line with Charles and the contrast slaps you awake. Leclerc's graph rises like a gentle hill, peaks, then melts away in a smooth fade. Hamilton's looks like an alpine ascent followed by a cliff-edge plunge. That punch catapults weight onto the nose, unloads the rear, and scrambles the underfloor airflow. The SF-25 lives on data. Engineers have tried everything to mask it: rearward brake bias, softer pedal links, even caliper pistons designed to dull the initial bite. Nothing sticks because the trace isn't hardware. It's software written into the man himself. The car responds as it was born to: punish abruptness, reward finesse. For Hamilton, the printout is less a readout and more a mirror reflecting 2 decades of habit. And that mirror isn't kind. From the first day a teenage Hamilton climbed into a national kart, victory followed a simple equation: brake as late and as hard as a rubber would allow, then trust your right foot. McLaren sharpened that edge, and Mercedes turned it into gospel. Their high-rake, mechanically grippy cars begged for decisive inputs, and Hamilton obliged. Punch and pivot, engineers called it. Between 2014 and 2020, that reflex minted 6 championships and a highlight reel of late break miracles. Fast forward to 2025, and the rulebook has flipped. Ground effect tunnels glue today's cars to the tarmac only when weight transfers stay whisper soft. The steering wheel vibrates at the mere thought of a spike. Hamilton's old reflex now behaves like a cheat code written for the wrong console, one the new physics refuses to read. Neuroscientists note that a movement repeated 500,000 times sinks from conscious control into basal ganglia autopilot. Hamilton is long past that. Telling him to brake softer is like telling a concert pianist to press C with less emotion. Easy to say, brutal to execute. Watch Charles Leclerc in slow motion, and you'll see a man conducting a string quartet. His right foot brushes the brake, pressure builds in a lazy wave, and the platform settles before he even twitches the wheel. Leclerc, while matching his pressure curve 85% of the time. The final 15% is Everest, but a recent renaissance hints at a path. Carlos Sainz exited Ferrari with polite smiles and faint disappointment. Pundits called it exile. Williams saw raw data, a driver capable of surgical modulation. Paired with a chassis that demanded precisely that, he stunned the paddock, qualifying 4th under Bahrain's lights and standing on the Melbourne podium 2 weeks later. His secret? Brake modulation so gradual it looked like slow motion, allowing airflow to stay glued and tire temps to stay calm. Off camera, Sainz admits he rebuilt his style watching 1980s turbo replays. Cars that spat back at the slightest surge. He practiced on sims with exaggerated latency, training anticipation over reaction. Williams now circulates that case study, proof that muscle memory can be rewritten in a single winter. For Hamilton, Sainz's renaissance is more than feel-good PR. It's living evidence that biology bends when determination leans hard enough. Lewis Hamilton's real rival isn't Charles Leclerc or the stopwatch. It's the code etched into his own hands and feet. Crack that loop and the title fight flips overnight. Fail and the most decorated driver of the hybrid era risks ending his scarlet chapter with a painfully human footnote. The pivot, when a jagged spike becomes a graceful curve, could surface next week at Imola or hide through a season of near misses. But whenever it arrives, the shift will feel instant, even though it was forged in months of unseen toil. There's something magnetic about greatness under reconstruction. Every revised trace, every whispered debrief, every midnight simulator stint turns abstract milliseconds into drama you can almost feel through the screen. Whether you cheer for the seven-time champion rewriting himself or for the homegrown ace determined to stay ahead, the subplot transforms each Grand Prix into a living lab of neuroplasticity at 300 kilometers per hour. So when the timing screens flash purple or fade to gray, don't just stare at the gap. Watch the contour of the brake curve, the tilt of the steering correction, the quiet proof that instinct can evolve. Because in Formula One, transformation doesn't only happen to carbon and titanium. It happens painfully and brilliantly to the humans brave enough to drive them. When Hamilton finally synchronizes mind, muscle, and machine, the stopwatch will gasp, the paddock will hush, and a brand new chapter will write itself across the scarlet pages of racing history. Until then, every lap is the most compelling cliffhanger in the sport.